Okay. Thank you. You just talked about the importance of community. You just talked about the importance of storytelling. And we just finished the Chag of Pesach, the Chag of storytelling. So I feel like I need to tell Meetup's founding story. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Our founder, Scott Heiferman, a great Jew, after 9/11, like so many of us here during that time, was in a state of total shock. He went down to his lobby and he saw all these other people that were also in a state of complete and total shock. He met someone and he said, "What floor do you live on?" And the person said, "I live on the 5th floor." And he said, "I live on the 5th floor too. How long have you been living there?" 3 years. Never met before. He met another person, never met before. And he said to himself, it shouldn't take a tragedy to build community. And at that moment, he decided to build what is the largest community platform in the world, which is Meetup. Meetup has 56 million members worldwide in 193 different countries. We're in every country besides North Korea. We are working on that with Dennis Rodman and others. We will see what happens. We have 330,000 different communities on our platform. Everything from Jewish learning to learning Swahili to hiking meetup groups to Jewish outdoor hiking meetup groups. In fact, I just went on a Jewish outdoor group last week. And that is what Meetup is about. It is about community. But we all know that. We all know that because as Orthodox and committed Jews, the concept of davening with a minyan is something that's inherent in something that we've always believed in. The concept of arevut and the concept of looking for a location to live in with a eruv so that we could always be part of our rich communities. We all know that's important, but so many people don't. And if you don't believe this David over here, there's another David that hopefully you can believe, and that is someone who knows that, who that is? David Letterman. David Letterman. I tried to find the most rabbinical looking picture of David Letterman. He looks more potentially like a rabbi than Rabbi Byrne, but you know, that's okay. David Letterman was famous for what? Anyone 35 and above? Well, no, you're not 30 yet. You may not know. What was he famous for? He's famous for his top 10 lists. So what we are going to do right now is talk about the top 10 lists around the importance and the impact of community when it comes to each of our lives. So here we go. Loneliness. There is a loneliness epidemic in this world. 46% of people, not occasionally, not sometimes, but regularly feel lonely. 46%. And you might think that it's just incredibly hard to believe, but if you look at this number, it just makes me cry. Most of the people in this room are Gen Zers. This was before the pandemic. 62% of Gen Zers regularly feel lonely. It speaks to the importance and criticality of community. At Meetup, one of the things we did when the pandemic started is we said for anyone with a .edu email address, if you want to become a community organizer, it is free to organize. I have a 21-year-old who's actually at Bar Ilan University in Israel right now studying. I know how hard it has been for so many of you during this time. So we made it free to become a community leader, shall we say, on Meetup, if that is of interest to anyone here. Number 9. So we didn't do this before. Let's do a drum roll, please. Number 9. Yeah, okay, we'll make it bad even stronger than the next one. That's pretty good. Number 9 is leadership. Why community is so important. All the Jonahs, all 58 Jonahs that worked on this together, and all the other people, individuals from Stern, I apologize for not remembering everyone's names, leadership opportunities to be able to do this here. So I'll tell you the story of Omar Acosta. Omar Acosta is someone who I had the opportunity to meet. He lives in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. He was lonely, he was depressed, he was spending 12 hours a day playing video games. His brother told him about Meetup. He went to his first Meetup event, which is for people new in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He went to a second event, a third event. He then, even though he's a huge introvert, went to a 6th event. The organizer left and said, "Can you take over this group?" 10 years later, there's been 1,000 events. There's been 6 marriages that have come out of this rock climbing group. Wasn't meant for marriage, but you never know. And it's an example where you just can step up and be a leader as part of community, like so many of you are within the YU community. Finding a job. I have had 7 different jobs in my life. I have gotten 7 of 7 from some form of community and relationships that I've been lucky to be a part of. I was at a meetup event, meeting with an organizer, and I said to the organizer, "What are you an organizer of?" And he said, "I'm organizing 2 groups, a bowling group and also a career networking group." And he said, "I got to tell you this, David. I got 2 different jobs from my bowling group, and my career networking group, I ended up meeting like my best friend." And it just speaks to that overall relationship between the personal and professional, and the ways to find jobs are interesting, creative ways as part of community. Mental health, as we know, is a serious concern. At Meetup, and we have many different Meetup communities. At YU, thank God, there are so many communities to support people in times of need as well. And I really hope that even if you don't think you need to take advantage of it, that you do find a way to take advantage of it. And thank you, God, in this generation, there's so much less of a stigma attached to it than there was, for old people like me. It's crazy, but Meetup support groups are up 94% during the pandemic. It kind of speaks to kind of how important it is to be there for each other as part of our collective communities. Going to number 6, let's get a stronger drum roll for number 6, which is learning. So this is a picture of someone who was a homeless vet in Australia. He was a veteran in Australia. He didn't have a college education, barely had high school education, and he actually said, "I'm going to have community educate me. I can't afford to go to school." He spent all this time going to different tech community meetup groups, learned technology from those groups, ended up getting jobs, and kind of finding that his best learning occurred through community. If you think about your time in seminary and your time in yeshiva, yes, the rabbis were amazing teachers and leaders, but how much learning did you get from the colleagues and the other students that you were with? When I went to Al Kotel, that's how I felt in terms of my personal experience. Learning is so important. Growing your business is part of community. Have you ever heard of Coinbase? Probably the world's largest platform for cryptocurrency. Flatiron School, founded by a YU alum, actually, as well. Coinbase started because the founder, Brian Armstrong, went around from one meetup group to another meetup group in order to figure out how to build a technology related to cryptocurrency. And the Flatiron School basically grew its entire business by going to different meetup groups interested in data science and machine learning. So ways in which you could grow your business, network, sales, etc. That's why community is important. Finding a life partner, community. I think we all know that in the world that we live in today. Making smarter decisions. There's a reason why the halachic process happens through Talmudic debate. It happens through Talmudic debate because when there's disagreement, better decisions get made. Community engenders the opportunity to be around people who are different than you, who have different backgrounds than you, and who can come into a situation with a very different perspective. Community drives nonlinear thinking and increases the likelihood to be able to pivot one's thoughts that you may have had it beforehand. I'm so obsessed with community and decision making. I actually just wrote a book about it. It's called Decide and Conquer, which you could probably get a pirated free copy somewhere, but hopefully you won't. That's where most of my students get it. Last 2 in terms of community is accountability. One of my favorite meetup groups is when I walked into a room and I saw 10 PhD students meeting every single day. One person was studying biology, another chemistry, another history. It didn't matter what they were studying, but they all came together because they needed to hold each other accountable. Being a PhD student, for anyone here that has a PhD, is a very lonely, very difficult process. To be able to have accountability through community, it just helps you to ultimately achieve your goals and to succeed in everything you want to succeed in. And finally, the number 1 important thing around community is friendships. 25% of people don't even have not one trusted confidant to be able to go to in a time of need. 25% of people. And 49% of people, almost half of people, of Americans, said that they have 3 or fewer close friends. I mean, there's really a travesty in terms of friendship. The number 1 search term on Meetup, by the way, is finding adult friends. It shouldn't be that you have to go to a bar to be able to find a friend or other ways to find friends. This is our top 10 list. 10, lonely, the reasons for how community can impact people. I'll read it all out together. Number 10, loneliness. Number 9, community impact leadership. Number 8, it helps people to find a job. Number 7, it focuses on mental health. And that's why I always really deeply believe in our Shabbos communities and how much that can do for us. We always say we're a technology that gets people off of technology. Thank God we have that when Shabbos. Most people do not, of course, have that. Number 6, learning. 5, growing your business through community. 4, finding a life partner. 3, making smarter decisions. 2, accountability. And 1, friendship. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be at such an incredible university, such an incredible yeshiva. And I consider myself so fortunate. And within that 17% that Sterling had talked about of finding deep meaning in my job. I hope you all find the same. Thank you.